Hey BookTube! In this video, I'm going to talk about 10 books that I hated and or did not finish last year, 2019. They are in no particular order, so don't hate me for saying this, but the first book is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, and it's not because it was a bad book, per se. It was just not for me. Partly because I thought it was a cool assassin book, kind of like Gladiator, with this female assassin, you know, fighting to survive, but it was kind of a romance Cinderella retelling, kind of, except Cinderella is a vain assassin-ish that's more interested in going to balls and having fun and reading books than actually worrying about surviving. Okay, I know I'm being a little bit mean, so don't hate me, but it was just not for me. If you like this book, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just not for me. The second book that I chose, it was actually an audiobook. It's a novella called Black Crow by Michael Livingston. It was about these people who are, I don't even remember what they were doing, but they were on a glacier or Antarctica, no, North Pole, something. They were basically, it was like they were in Greenland on a glacier. It was snow the entire time, and they were hungry. There were polar bears, I think, and they were dying, and it was dangerous, and it was just misery. And I get enough snow and misery and grayish, depressing weather here that I'm not really keen on reading stuff like that, so it was not for me. A third book on my list is Nobody Wants to Read Your... It's by Stephen Pressfield, and you know, I didn't want to read his. This sentence was like 1,000 times in this book, and it was so annoying that I just stopped reading it. Well, actually, I was listening to it. It was an audiobook, and it was so annoying and so just like negative and offensive, and it was not helpful at all to any writer, so I hated it. The fourth book, it's a popular book. I hope you won't hate on me. It's Bloodleaf by Crystal Smith. And it's not because it's not a bad book. I just figured everything out and it was just too obvious for me. So I didn't like it. Well, I liked it in the beginning. It kind of hooks me in, and I did finish it, but it was just that I figured everything out way in advance. It was just too obvious for me, and it got to the point that it was so darn obvious that I was like, ah, of course this is happening right now, and what will happen next? And that exact thing happened, and I just got frustrated in the end. There's nothing wrong with anyone who likes that book. You're not stupid if you don't figure everything out. I think that I just have read probably too many books that have these tropes and plot devices, so I just figured it out, and it was just not exciting. Sorry. The fifth book, oh god, it's more difficult than I thought being this negative. It's The Land Founding on... Sorry, I'm reading this because it's hard to read. A lit RPG saga. I think it's probably a literature role-playing game saga by Elaren Kong. I think it's self-published. The story itself wasn't bad. It was just the fact that it was like a video game. And it also was an audiobook. Probably it would work better in like physical format. Regularly there was this information like how many points he had, how many lives he had left, or like how much strength he got from each item. You people who play video games, you know what I'm talking about, like when you press an item and you get all the information about that item. And yeah, I don't play video games, so I just couldn't relate. It was just tedious, and it broke the flow in the story, and that's why I didn't like it. The 6th book. You guys, most of these books get really good ratings, so I feel bad saying this, but it's just my personal experience. And it's Hidden Huntress by Danielle L. Jensen. I do like this author. I read The Bridge Kingdom by her and I love that book. It's a romance fantasy, and this is a romance fantasy also. I read the first book and it was okay, so I wanted to see the second book. It's a trilogy, and the second was just too obvious for me also. It was just so obvious that it got annoying. And also, if you like Twilight, you will probably like this book. I didn't really like Twilight, so I didn't like this. Because it's kind of like Twilight, except with trolls. So they're exactly like the vampires, except they don't drink blood and they don't shine in sunlight. I hated it. The first book was okay, but I hated the second book. I did. I really hated it. I was angry when I was finished with it. The 7th book is also a popular book. It's by Ken Follett. It's called Pillars of the Earth. It got awesome reviews and I was really excited about it. It was kind of a different premise than from what I'm used to. It's about this man who builds churches, and it was just too depressing. Sorry, I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler, but it happens very early on in the book, so maybe it's not so bad. But it's this guy, and he doesn't have a job, and he's looking for a job, and he takes his heavily pregnant wife who's about to give birth and their 2 young children to walk in the cold, in the midwinter, in the snow, like to a faraway town to try to find a job because some guy stole their pig, which was their only source of food, after he lost his job building a church or something. And on the way, his wife gives birth. She dies from childbirth. He leaves the baby with her dead body. Later he regrets it and he goes back to get the baby, but it's gone, so he thinks probably some wolves ate it. He finds this woman who tells him that she knows where his baby is. It was rescued by monks. She advises him not to get it back because he's not really in a position to provide for that child and help it survive because he doesn't have any money, he can't feed it or anything. So it's probably better off with the monks. And it's not 24 hours since the death of his wife, and he makes love to this woman and falls in love with her. And I was just so offended by that. So offended. Like, how his wife was not cold in the grave and he had moved on. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's almost like cheating to me. Like, did he not care about her at all? what the heck? But these 3 events took so many pages that I was like, "Ugh, nothing's happening here except really depressing, annoying stuff, so I'm not gonna bother." I hated it. The 8th book. You're gonna hate me too for this. It's called The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. She's a really well-known author. She wrote Interview with a Vampire, which was made into a film with Brad Pitt. And I was like, oh, this book can't go wrong. It got awesome reviews. I hated it. Nothing happened. It was all description, purple prose, I guess what it is. I remember this scene where the main character was walking down a street, and it was pages of description of everything that he saw on the street and what he thought about what he saw in the store windows. And who cares? So I DNF'd it. The 9th book that I hated was the first book in the Galaxy Outlaw series, and I don't even remember what it's called. It's by J.S. Morris, I think? No, Morin. J.S. Morin. Not moron, but Morin. But I kind of felt like a moron when I was reading it because it had all these technological description of stuff that you don't really care about how it functions, and it just got tedious. And I hated the main character. He was an arrogant chauvinist, so I didn't like that. The 10th book that I didn't like and I DNF'd is Oversea Under Stone. It's by Susan Cooper. It's the first book in the Dark is Rising series by her. And I think I just didn't realize it was a middle grade book, and I'm just too old for it. The main character was a young child, and it was not for me. I'm too old for that kind of stuff, so I don't know if it's good or not. I'm just too old for it, so I didn't like it. So that's an unclimactic ending, but let's leave it at that. Bye!